says these guys are innocent, but the folks online weren't convinced.
There was also Jack Showalter, who was at the food truck when Maddie and Kaylee were there. He became known as Hoodie Guy. So people were analyzing the food truck video, and they thought he looked quite suspicious.
You know, there's been a lot of speculation and rumors. We're the official source of information. Individuals who are being harassed in this situation, people need to be careful.
Another early focus of the investigation was video. Detectives gathered recordings from homes, businesses all around the time of the murders in that area. And one thing stood out, one vehicle stood out. That was a white Hyundai Elantra.
We're looking for that car because we believe through our investigation that that car was in the area during the time of the murders.
According to investigators, beginning at 3:29 a.m., the white Elantra made 3 separate passes by the house on King Road. Then at 4:04, they say it was back for a 4th time, stopping in front of the house before traveling on to do a 3-point turn. It then drove past the house again and out of the camera's view. At 4:20, it was back in view and leaving the area at a high rate of speed.
So everyone's looking for this car, this white Elantra, and there's an officer, a campus police officer from Washington State University, across the state border, who decides to run a list of all the white Elantras on campus. And he finds one. It's registered to a guy named Bryan Kohberger.
They end up finding his car in the parking lot of Kohberger's campus apartment. When they run his name, they find that he had been pulled over twice in the months before the murders, once in Moscow and once in Pullman.
Hello.
Sir.
I am Officer Loangus. Stops being audio and video recorded.
I was just slightly into the crosswalk, so you know, yeah, where I'm from Pennsylvania, we actually don't have like crosswalks.
Oh,
so even if you're kind of slightly, yeah, there's a little bit more leeway as well. Like there are a few lines, like there's one white line and there's another one. Like there's like a certain margin from which you can actually kind of put your vehicle, place your vehicle.
During the traffic stop in Moscow, Kohberger gave the officer his cell phone number.
Now, when you get a phone number, it changes everything because you get access to it in a different way. That's one more piece of evidence, one more piece of the puzzle. Is it enough to see what the puzzle says? Not necessarily, but you're getting closer.
According to investigators, Kohberger's phone records showed that between 2:27 a.m. and 4:48 a.m. the morning of the murders, Kohberger's phone was turned off or in airplane mode or possibly out of battery, but it wasn't connecting to any cell phone tower.
Sometimes it's not about evidence. It's about the lack of evidence that actually matters. In this particular case, we had a cell phone that was turned off for a very specific window of time. During a window of time where 4 people were murdered and he is the singular suspect. That means something.
Investigators say that when they looked back at Kohberger's cell phone records in the 5 months leading up to the murders, that his phone was in the area of the girl's home on 12 separate occasions.
This was not just something where he happened to be in the region one time and it's easily explainable. The problem is now you really have to be able to explain that other dozen times the month before. You better have a pretty good reason for this.
Coming up, the arrest.
Hey, Bryan. Bryan, how's it going?
How you feeling?
How you feeling, Bryan?
How strong is the evidence against Bryan Kohberger?
You read the affidavit and you just find out that he was stalking them, he was hunting them. He was just a person looking for an opportunity.
Imagine what happens when you're finally able to get the results of the DNA sample. We got this guy. We've got this guy.
We don't know when and how this DNA got there. I'm not at all worried about the DNA.
Last night, in conjunction with the Pennsylvania State Police, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, detectives arrested 28-year-old Bryan Christopher Kohberger in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, on a warrant for murders of Ethan, Zana, Madison, and Kaylee.
Mr. Kohberger was taken into custody without incident. The scene was turned over to the FBI Evidence Response Team for processing.
According to a Monroe County, Pennsylvania prosecutor, when SWAT arrived at the family home of Bryan Kohberger, they found him standing in his parents' kitchen at 1:30 in the morning.
Kohberger was found awake in the kitchen area, dressed in shorts and a shirt and wearing latex medical-type gloves, and apparently was taking his personal trash and putting it into separate Ziploc baggies.
The DNA found on the knife sheath under Madison Mogen's body was the piece of the puzzle investigators needed. 3 days before Kohberger's arrest, detectives used trash from Kohberger's parents' home for a DNA sample that turned out to be a match to the suspected killer's father.
Imagine what happens when you're finally able to get the results of the DNA sample that you pull from the father.